Hi everybody, this is Sandy from NamaStream. Welcome to another webinar replay where we today discuss branding with branding expert Danielle Joseph from Hello Function. She is a yogi herself, and she works with a lot of different yogis and other wellness entrepreneurs who want to really identify what their brand is and how to be very consistent with it across all platforms. So that's what we are talking about today, as well as we have a very special guest, Jenny Finkel, who is a NamaStream teacher, and Danielle actually walks through Jenny's Facebook page, website, and Instagram and gives her some feedback in real time and gives her some pointers. And I think a lot of those tips you could apply to your social media accounts and website as well. So another note is at 5.5 minutes, the video will actually start. So we have a great webinar platform, but it doesn't record screen very well. So we have to kind of jerry-rig this all together. So it's just a placeholder image until about 5.5 minutes, and that's when our images will come on. And then later, when Jenny is actually involved, Jenny Finkel's involved, we will switch to, you will see the actual screens showing Jenny Finkel's website, Instagram, and Facebook as Danielle goes through it. So enjoy, and as always, we're here for questions, and you can check out what we're doing at namastream.com, as well as our new membership community, which is soulful.mba.
Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. I'm Jennifer Barcelos, the CEO of NamaStream, and I'm joined by my co-founder Sandy. Hey Sandy.
Hello.
And as well as branding expert Danielle Joseph.
Hello.
Danielle. And our yoga star today is Jenny Finkel, and she's one of our phenomenal clients, and she's about to put herself in the position to be in a hot seat. So thank you, Jenny, for making yourself vulnerable on camera for everyone else's benefit.
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
This is great. So welcome everyone who's joining us live, and for those of you who are watching the replay, today is June 2nd, 2016, and we usually are available for a follow-up question. So if you get this out in the replay and you're watching this later, just reply to the email to team@namastream.com with any questions that you have, and we'll get them sent to the right person. So everyone, welcome, and why don't we go ahead and dive on in?
Great, sounds good. So you want to just start with to introduce Danielle?
Yeah, Danielle. So this is my first time meeting you.
Yeah.
So welcome to our webinars. Danielle is a yoga teacher and a branding expert. You're based in Toronto, am I?
Yes,
correct in that,
you're right.
Danielle?
Toronto, Ontario. Yep.
Yeah, and so Danielle has graciously offered to provide this free training to our community in addition to sort of doing a hot seat for us. And Danielle, do you want to tell us a little bit about your brand? Your brand is called Function Creative Co., right? And you have a whole brand new course for yoga teachers who are wanting to get branding their businesses.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time designer and brand stylist. That's basically what my title is, and it's housed under Function Creative Co. That's the design company that I've started. And recently, within the past year or so, I've started to work really closely with yoga teachers, and after becoming a yoga teacher myself, I've kind of gone down that path of really working with them to help with their brand and help through the process of setting up a branded business as a yoga teacher. So yeah, I think I'll get a little bit more into some details as we go, and then I can tell you a little bit more about the course after, but basically launched recently a course of walking teachers through the process of building a brand online.
Wonderful. Yeah, we've had a couple of branding trainings before, and I think that it's really important for yoga teachers and other wellness folks to understand how branding relates to their brand. I think a lot of people think of a brand as a logo and not as sort of a cohesive whole, like representation of sort of who they are and what they're offering. So it's always exciting to be able to communicate that, especially from someone who's a yoga teacher who sort of understands both sides. So we're really grateful to have that. And I'll just tell a little bit about NamaStream for those of you who are new to our community. NamaStream is a virtual studio software platform. We were designed for yoga teachers and yoga studios as a way to be able to offer online trainings and programs. We've since been adopted by kind of all sorts of wellness professionals. So we have dancers and Pilates teachers, personal trainers, CrossFitters, TRXers, as well as a whole bunch of holistic nutritionists and health coaches. So welcome for all of you. I think most of the folks joining us today are yoga teachers, and that still continues to sort of be the core of our brand and our community. And we just sort of, in addition to our software offering, we have recently launched an online community, a business training community called the Soulful MBA, for folks who want to go deeper in learning about how the different elements of their business can be scaled and grown out in the world and out on the internet. And so if you want to learn more about that, we'll share a little bit more at the end of today's training. But that's sort of what we're about. And the Soulful MBA is a NamaStream product. It's our same team, our same sort of core competencies, just bringing it out into business training.
Very cool.
Yep. So Danielle, do you want to tell us a little bit more about sort of how folks should get started when they're thinking about branding? We have a lot of, I would say our standard person who comes to us, our standard yoga teacher, is maybe very good at teaching yoga, has maybe taught 5+ years, and is known in the community where he or she practices and teaches in the various studios in town, and maybe has a growing and budding Instagram account, and that's sort of our kind of regular person that comes to us. And so they're definitely a professional, definitely someone who is very good at what they do, but not necessarily has ever run their own business or really knows kind of what's involved with scaling that.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. So after kind of becoming a yoga teacher myself and working with clients kind of on a regular basis, working through this process of branding a business, I found a little bit of that gap between when we become yoga teachers or, you know, even wellness entrepreneurs of any sort. We're kind of thrown into the role of an entrepreneur without much business training, essentially. And regardless of kind of if you're teaching just purely in a studio or if you're out on your own trying to run workshops or run group classes or private clients, all of these kinds of things, and grow, or perhaps, you know, grow an online business, there's always a purpose to branding and paying attention to your brand. And as yoga teachers and these wellness, heart-centered kind of entrepreneurs, it's really not about turning anything into this big corporate empire or like building, you know, it's not just the logo, it's so much more. It's just really being aware of who you are as a yoga teacher, and I'll say yoga teacher because that's what I mainly work with, but it really does apply to anyone who's kind of taken on that role, that their entrepreneurial role is deeply kind of rooted within them. So as yoga teachers, our brand, it's our style of teaching, it's who we are as yoga teachers, and the whole process of figuring that out is really about going on a journey to figure out who you are and how that's being perceived by your audience and how you can effectively communicate with an audience that that you want to be reaching. So it's more about the process of kind of being a little bit more self-aware, figuring out who you're speaking to, figuring out who you want to be speaking to, and then building more of a visual representation of that so that you can communicate and stand out effectively. Like you can stand out in the crowd of people when you start to be a little bit more consistent with your brand and pay more attention to fleshing that out in all ways. There's so many aspects to everything that we do now as yoga teachers. There's social media, we're in person, we're online, all of these things. There's so many places for people to kind of touch and interact with you. So it's really important to have that process down and be able to be aware of your brand and start building that out and be really clear so that you can start being more consistent and more effective so that people can kind of tie all of those things back to you. So yeah, I've put together kind of like 3 common branding mistakes that we see or things that we could probably be doing a little bit better, which if you want I can dive into if that
Dive
does
away.
that work? Dive away. Okay. So the first one that I wanted to touch on is kind of the biggest one that I see, and it's that we don't have, some people just, they've not put thought or they don't have that visual identity system put into place yet. And you know, whether you're just kind of starting out and have just graduated a training program or, you know, you're 20 years into teaching or whatever point you're at in your yoga career, it is important to start thinking, whether that be now, you know, regardless again of how long you've been teaching, you can start now, of thinking about those visual aspects and creating a sort of visual identity for yourself as a yoga teacher or as a wellness entrepreneur. And that is things like that's something like your logo, so, or your word mark. You know, you don't have to get fancy, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to do this, but starting to put together a visual reference of how you're going to portray yourself in things like social media, business cards, websites, all of these things. There's so many things that we can really be putting out into the world, and we want to start building them to represent us consistently. So coming up with, a consistent word mark or a logo that you can use, some way that you're going to represent yourself in your yoga teaching business, your colors. So choosing, I like to say for people to start out with this, if you're just kind of new to the idea of creating a brand color or a brand color scheme, coming up with maybe 2 primary brand colors, not to say primary colors, but primary colors that will represent you as you and your business. So, Namastream is the teal blue, and that's everywhere. That's everywhere that you guys put. Anything you put out has some aspect of that blue in it, so that when you see it really quickly, you can tie it back to your brand. Yeah, see? Denny's even got her necklace on. So really, it's everywhere. So, coming up with 1 or 2 of those kinds of colors, and then balancing that with maybe a couple of neutral colors, a gray or a black or a white, whatever else to balance out where you need neutrals. That's a really good place to start, is coming up with a distinct differentiating color that's you, so that people who interact with you often enough, when they're whipping through Instagram and they see something, it catches their eye and they can think, they know it's you. So that's really a big part of the visual identity system. And then it goes into things like fonts, like choosing and being really consistent with the type of fonts you use, because all of these things have moods and they have tones to them. So, different fonts, it sounds so simple, but a font can really have a tone or an underlying mood to it. And if we can start paying attention to what we're using and using them more consistently, then again, people will see those things and start to attribute them, and things just start to flow, and they look cohesive, and they tie back to you being consistent as a brand. So those are kind of the 3 main things: is your logo, your word marker, whatever you're calling yourself, just being really consistent with that, your colors, your typography, and then we can get really down into things like your image style. Having a cohesive style brand for your imagery that you're sharing or that you're using on your website. If you're using patterns, using those consistently. If you're using icons, like those kinds of things. So really getting a system in place for your visual identity is the number 1 kind of tip that I would say, or the number 1 mistake that a lot of people don't have. So we'll get a little bit more into it. Yeah.
About that, Danielle. So
sure.
How you say that fonts or these brand representations have a mood, which I think is absolutely true. Like, that just makes me think when someone types you a message and it's in all caps, you feel like they're screaming at you.
Yeah, they're yelling at you.
Fonts can look like they're screaming at you, or that they're like soft and sweet or whatever. How do you recommend that teachers and other folks go about figuring out what the mood should be for their brand?
When I go through the process with any of my clients or yoga teachers, what we really work out at the beginning of the whole process is building out a foundation for yourself. So really getting clear, and I end up getting people to come up with maybe 3 kind of key words that describe them as a yoga teacher, that describe their brand. So 3 words that someone would say if you asked them, what would you use to describe me, or what you think, whatever you're striving for, picking like a foundational message or value system for yourself, and then building everything else on top of that. So if you're someone who's going for like a very grounded brand, then your fonts and your colors and stuff shouldn't be like neon and crazy, like very bold and loud. They should be grounded and kind of, a little bit maybe softer, but also a little bit stronger for like a grounding brand. If you were someone who's like a little bit more playful in your yoga teaching, your colors and then your fonts can play with that as well. They've got really fun, playful, scripty fonts that you could incorporate into your brand. And I like to get that foundation fixed, and then we work to build the visuals off of that. So building off of your values and your main kind of core foundation, finding the fonts that you can use to match that. And there's so many resources online. Pinterest is like the best place to be. So you can just type in kind of specific words and fonts, and there will be results. So,
and Danielle, I just have a question. So when they're starting this sort of baseline, what am I about, what do I want to represent, how much do they think of what they love and what they like versus who the audience that they're trying to appeal to? So they probably, in the beginning, they won't be super clear who that ideal client is, but then like it has to appeal to that person that they're trying to attract, right? So do you
Yes.
kind of help them, bring that into the equation?
Yeah, for sure. So through the process too that I work through with yoga teachers in branding is going through a lot of kind of initial worksheets or like some homework style things where we figure out what they like and what they like teaching and what they don't like teaching, because it's really important that you're passionate about what you're doing too. So we sort of start to build that out and figuring out what you really love to teach and what you really don't maybe like to teach. And the key to that is obviously just teaching and practicing and making sure that you're always kind of taking these opportunities to figure that out and figure out what you like and what you don't like. And then we combine that with a little bit of more of the ideal audience. So who do you want to be working with? What kind of people do you love working with? What kind of students are you more into teaching beginners, or do you like teaching advanced, yogis, or do you like teaching people who work in corporate? Like starting to figure out who your ideal student is, and then we kind of blend those so that we're coming to a point where you're teaching what you love to be teaching and your brand can represent that, and you're also reaching the right people for that. So we work through kind of that whole process with like a little bit of a worksheet style setup, and get really clear on those values, and then we can start to. And then the other thing that I really always drive home with anybody that I really work with through this is you're going to grow as a brand and you're going to keep growing as a yoga teacher, and things are going to change. You're going to take other trainings later, and that might shift things as you go, but branding isn't about setting things in stone. It's really about just making sure that we're clear and we're doing things with intention, and then growing with that. So, no one's going to, in 3 years from now, if you took like a prenatal training and you're kind of shifting your audience a little bit, no one's going to not come learn from you because you changed a color and you decided to go some other way. There's definitely ways to move with your brand and be able to incorporate that. So it's just about really knowing yourself as a teacher and building those out and being intentional behind all of your branding choices and your interactions with your audience. Does that answer?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, that's really about that visual system that we have in place, and just starting to think about that process is going to help you get into the next point, which my next kind of number on my list of common branding mistakes or kind of a tip is to be really consistent. So I see so many people being really inconsistent with their brand, and it's just a fault of not being aware of these things. So it's starting to get aware, and so we can build out that system, like I was saying, where people are going to find you on Instagram, and then they're going to either remember you and be like, hey, I think I came across, or I think she has a Facebook group, or I think I saw her website, and it's happened to me so many times where I have someone on Instagram and I'll stumble upon them in life at some point in some way, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I've been following that person on Instagram for a while, and it makes that connection where you're just like, oh yeah, and it's almost an automatic level of trust in that person as you recognize them. So being able to take these things and, above and beyond just the visual system, the foundational work that you do, the tones and the values and the brand message that you come up with for yourself, and the language that you use in your brand and how you interact with people. Like branding can go right down to your email signature. Like someone signing off as cheers is a different feeling in people than someone signing off sincerely, or like there's no right or wrong, but it's all different interactions, and it's all eliciting different kind of reactions or feelings in your audience. Not bad or good or anything like that, but might even not be something that we're conscious of, but it does change the feeling of things. So as we work through that process of getting really consistent with our language and our visuals and things like that, it's not about trying to become something that you're not. It's not about trying to match this ideal brand of what you think you should be as a yoga teacher. It's really about kind of matching your brand to you already. So it's seeing how you sign off on emails or seeing how your language is already and figuring out the intention behind that, and just being aware of how that's resonating and what feelings that's eliciting from other people. So when we can start to do that and get consistent, we're being able to touch and reach people in a way that they're going to remember us and they're going to recognize us. And like I was saying with the teal blue with Namastream, you see it here and there, and you follow along on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and then it's just there, and you recognize them and you remember them, and that really helps to keep people at the forefront of your audience's minds. And when they do want to have something to do with you, or they do need your service, or they do need your product, then they're going to remember you because you've interacted, they know who you are because it's just been consistently communicated. So yeah, I have a quote here that I posted in one of my blogs, and I think it really drives home this point, and it says, by having a consistent brand identity, you're increasing the likelihood that people will notice you, remember you, and then want to follow up with you. So it just, we have to try and make it really easy for people to access us and to remember us. I know that they can do it on their own if they put in the work, and but we shouldn't be asking our audience really to do extra work to know us, because it's up to us to kind of communicate with them. So being really consistent and using your visual identity, using the language and the imagery and all of these things is going to help to kind of just drive home that point of remembering who you are.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah.
We have we run a challenge called the 40 Days of Social Media Challenge, and so we send out 40 emails, and it's a different topic every day. So we watch all these people go through, and years ago you used to just have to worry about your business card, and now you have to worry about it, like 5 different channels of social media, and now I have to start thinking about my email signature now, which I didn't.
I know.
But the biggest problem, I think, is the consistency. And with tools like Canva, where people can, and Adobe, and what's the other one that they use on their phone, Jenny? There's another one. Anyway, there's one that they use on the phone to create Instagram.
WordSwag.
Yeah, WordSwag. That's right. And then
There's like a million of that. That's
but
the
it's
iPhone.
so tempting to veer off, right? Because you have this list of gigantic, these beautiful fonts, and it can seem a bit boring to stay within this font, and you're like, you get all crazy. And I saw it happening over and over in the challenges that people experiment, which is great. I think in the beginning, maybe you need to learn this, but it was so jarring to see like their font, their logo or their name in a different color and a different font in every Instagram post. So it's just a really great point to have that basic system, and have maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4 fonts that you choose, so you can do something different. It's not always the same, right? But anyway.
Or you have an accountability partner or a friend or a teammate who doesn't let you do that. So I am the person that wants like
use everything.
Permanent marker one day and graffiti one day. And I mean, if anyone has been following our brand over time, our logo evolves like every 3 or 4 months. And but it's like it's always the same color.
Yeah.
So there's something, but it's also like, I think as creative beings, and a lot of yogis and other wellness folks, like we're all sort of like creatively drawn. And I know designers are the worst for this. Like, you want to remake everything all the time. You have some new idea, and you have this new sense of who you are and like what you're bringing into the world, right? But I think if you have strains of like consistency, it's okay. And you also have to have like that voice of reason that maybe it's not even you that holds you back and says like, no.
Yeah.
We went through a masking tape phase too. We were having like
the washi tape. Donna, if you're listening to this, I'm really sorry. I had our designers start putting like washi tape, colored, brightly striped washi tape, like clip art all over the website. It's just because it's like washi tape, right? We need washi tape, right? Like, so you have to censor that stuff. Like, you just have to censor that stuff. But but it's also okay to be creative, right? Like the joy, that's part of the joy in being like having your own business and being creative is getting to
absolutely and like you kind of nailed it when you said too, like, as long as there's a form of consistency, then it's okay. Like you might choose 2 or 3 main primary fonts that you'll use for like headings or quotes or things like that. And then if you switch those out, just make sure that something else, like there's another element of consistency. It's your logo or it's something. Because, Sandy, when you said that, like people, it's like this thing on Instagram right now where people just kind of put, like they just text overlay everything. And it's nice, but it's not consistent if it doesn't look like it's coming from you all the time. People are not going to make that connection as they're scrolling through their newsfeed, because rarely are people going onto your account and just looking at you unless they've just followed you or come across you. Most people are going through their news feeds, they're going through their Facebook feeds, they're not seeing necessarily who's even posting. How many times have we gone on Facebook and saw a cool article and been like, who posted that? Like the content needs to be branded in some way and have that consistency for them to make the connection in their head. If you just want them to see a pretty picture on Instagram, go nuts. Or, you're sharing an article on Facebook, that's good. But if you're going for kind of making that connection of branding and you as a business owner or a teacher, then there has to be some element of consistency or something to make that connection in their head so that they're not having to go through that process and you're just assuming that they've made that connection, because we can't assume that. Most people haven't if it's not branded in some way. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. You don't have to stay in this box of this is all you can do for the rest of your yoga teaching business career. But having that element of consistency in the back of your mind as you're putting things out, that's what's going to kind of help drive home the point and make those connections to your audience. So yeah, I'm going to go on to the last. Now I have the third kind of last one that I wanted to touch on before we dive into Jenny's brand. But the other thing that I see so many times is, and it's not even just, it's with lots of clients that I work with, is people talking at an audience and not with audiences. And this is on the topic of branding because it should be kind of things to think about. It's also a little bit more on the marketing side of your brand. But really engaging your audience instead of just selling at them is going to make the world of difference to people. So one thing I heard recently that I really loved was that you have to approach that kind of marketing or selling of your services in whatever way that you sell services. You have to kind of approach that like you're dating, like you're going to be on a dating scene, or you want to date someone. So if you find someone on the street that's some suitable candidate, if you run up to that person and you say, "Will you go on a date with me?" they're probably going to be like a little bit scared or a little bit, like, "Who are you?" Like, I don't want to go spend like how many hours with you, just I don't know who you are. So you have to kind of approach it in like a warming up way and, introducing yourself and chatting and getting, providing some value or proving yourself kind of in a way and building a relationship instead of just talking at people. So as yoga teachers and offering a service, we're offering something that's really personal and kind of deep. We're passionate about it, and other people are passionate about it, and the people who want to learn from yoga teachers are particular on who they want to learn from, and we really need to start nourishing and building these relationships in a little bit more of like an authentic way than just saying, "Come to my class at this studio," or, watch this. You have to really provide value and be engaging people in conversations. And we have this huge access of social media now that has just opened the floodgates to how many people we can reach. And that's amazing, and it really gives a lot of potential to people to reach a ton more people than just your local community, but it's also a much colder audience. It's not they don't know you like your community may know you, and you need to start really putting out value, interacting with people on social media, answering questions, just for providing value for the sake of providing it. I'm not saying to give things away for free necessarily, but be really authentic in that you're giving and you're interacting and you're engaging and you're asking questions and you're starting conversations, as opposed to just, "I have the solution, you should buy my class," that kind of thing. So it's just really starting to take that brand and those interactions and then being aware of how you can build relationships with them and start to build an audience rather than just casting a huge net and hoping for the best. So really engaging people and starting to build more like authentic relationships with your audience members. And there's so many ways you can do this, whether you're in the online community or local community. If you're in classes, staying 10 or 15 minutes after class or before class and coming in and introducing yourself, or offering up the playlist that you played in class. If anyone wants the playlist, come drop your email at the front. I'll send it out after class. Like, just giving a little bit more value. So instead of charging less or giving things away for free, just add that value so that people are really kind of knowing that you're authentically wanting to help them. So yeah, that was the last kind of point. And the other thing with that is to be patient. Obviously, these things we feel like if you do that a lot, you're doing and doing and doing. But these building of relationships and being able to nurture that takes a little bit of time. So we need to be a bit more patient too with stuff we're putting out on social media, blog posts, and things like that. Being patient with the response and just consistent again. Just keep putting things out. If we showed up here on this webinar and there's not one person logged in, we still follow through and we're going to put it out. And you just have to kind of keep showing up in that way to provide the value, and it will eventually pay off. You just have to be a little bit more patient, especially with the online community of things. So yeah, those are my 3 kind of common things that I see in ways that we can start to fix those things a little bit step by step. It's a process, and it takes some time, but definitely if you just start thinking about it, and you can start at any point in your yoga career, to start going through this process, it will help you get nice and clear and organized on, you know, what you want to be as a yoga teacher, what you want to be offering, and who you want to be speaking to. Because we can speak to everybody, but is it that effective? I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I love that you wrapped in like the talking with the audience as part of the brand. Like that's, I think that was really brilliant. And also, I just want to say to everyone listening that some of this stuff may just feel so overwhelming, and that I'm actually just working on a mindset unit for inside the Soulful MBA about business mindset, and one of them is like just start. Like you don't have to figure it all out. Danielle just gave a ton of information, and Jenny Finkel, I'm sure you can agree with this, that you just take that step, and you may totally mess up on your colors or whatever, but at least you've moved forward a little bit, and it's a journey of ups and downs and learning, and just start. Like don't have everything Danielle just figured out perfectly before you even move forward, because that's a mistake, and I think that's a big loss. So
And the other thing I was going to say is that Sandy will send out, I think, in the link, but I put together a branding checklist so that you will get a freebie checklist where you can download that and just literally slowly work through the process, or as quickly as you want to, because it, like Sandy said, what I say to all of the people that I work with, the yoga teachers, is because we're constantly trying to run from one class to another, and we're hustling so much, and I hear it time and time again from teachers particularly, just do one thing a day for your behind the scenes of your yoga business or your brand. And if you spend 10 to 15 minutes a day on something, it's progress. So yeah.
that's great. Okay, let's check out Jenny Finkel.
All right. We're going to dive into a little brand audit, right, of Jenny's stuff. So we're going to start, I talked to Jenny, we're going to start with the website, and then we'll move on to a quick, just like little few points about her Facebook page, and then Instagram, and then we can get her feedback.
If she's still on, she may hide.
So let me see if I can share the screen here to put up tell me if you can see it.
Nope.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I think I might have to.
There.
Something.
That's me.
Okay, so you can see the website?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna, hopefully if I minimize this, okay. Everyone's good? You can hear me, you can see me, or the website?
Yeah,
okay.
Good.
All right, so we're gonna go through a little overview. So sometimes I work with clients this way too, where I just do a little bit of a coaching session like this. So we're gonna just walk through a quick little audit of Jenny's site, and I'm gonna give her some tips on things that she could improve and just ways to start thinking about this branding process in terms of her website and her Facebook page and Instagram. So on her website, Jenny, what I loved, first of all, is that your call to action is super clear. So if people come across just this page and this is all they make it to, your subscribe button is here, you've got a free opt-in, which is awesome, and your social media tags are here. So right away, when you land on her page, you can see what she does. There's a clear call to action, and if you want to follow up, there are ways to follow up with her social media. So those are really good points to hit on your landing page, on your homepage. The one thing is the contrasting of the pictures and the color. I love that you have this purple throughout your website and your brand, but I would say if there's a way for you to either get into this picture or have someone else go in that can edit this photo, the background, to lighten it up a little bit. You can lighten up things like just the background of a picture and keep your kind of face and body the same so that you're not over saturating anything, but you can lighten up that back part to give a little bit more contrast for your logo and your word mark to stand out a bit more. So it'll just be a little bit more clear on, like right now it's very easy, and some people's screens are going to be worse off too than other people's, but your last name gets a little bit lost, and there's a little bit of a vibrating color that's happening with the purple, but that's just kind of some food for thought for the word mark, because I don't think you necessarily need to change. When I went through the rest of the pictures, I don't think you necessarily need to change the color or anything like that. I think it's just a matter of maybe updating the imagery to be a little bit more contrasted with that color.
And Danielle, if Jenny wanted to try doing that herself, what tool could she do to would she need, like?
So there are, I'm not sure.
Could do it in Canva?
I don't know about photo retouching in Canva. Like you can for sure get apps. Like if you go on VSCO Cam, Have you guys heard of that
No.
app?
Yeah, the
You
Visco
know,
camp.
like there's lots of photo editing. I think even Adobe has a Photo Elements app, a free app on the iPhone, and there might even be a Photoshop app actually on that's free for the iPhone. But you can definitely target. You just want to be adjusting the shadows and highlights of the pictures in one of those apps. I like VSCO Cam. The filters and stuff on Instagram I find like a little bit drastic. Like they're a bit harsh compared to that app, but you can find like the Photo Elements or Photoshop app on your iPhone or your smartphone that you could use as well. Let me just minimize this guy again. Okay. And I wrote some notes, so I just want to make sure I'm covering what I wanted to cover. Oh, and then the other thing. So just still sticking to this page. So like I said, I love that your opt-in is here. I think that if you had some sort of graphic that you could place that really brings the user's eye, because right now the eye goes to your picture. People love imagery. People don't love to spend time reading text. It's a sad reality, but you have a good amount of text on this page. There's not a ton for people to read here, but I think if you had some sort of graphic to complement your free guide to home practice, I think that would be awesome. Like, what is the guide? Is the guide like a PDF or is it video? Like,
PDF.
yeah. So if you had some sort of graphic that is a little outline or a little clip thing of what that looks like, or some sort of like imagery to, or an icon even to put in where that opt-in is, I think it'll draw the user's eye back to that and really kind of up the ante there a little bit. And then your colors. So I love the purple, and I think that putting the purple with the blue headlines, like I think you could pick one, and I think you could use the purple on the white to be your headlines. Like I think that would contrast fine and it would be really easy to read. So if you used that purple again on your headlines instead of the blues, I think that would really drive home that color, and then it's a little bit less confusing for a user to pick up on, if again, if they see you, and we'll go into your social media after, but yeah, just to keep that consistency. And with your typography on your website, I would say to differentiate, somehow find a divide. Like if you could use a different font perhaps for like a heading and then a body text. And I think, let me go into another page here. I think if we go into another page here. So this, see how your word mark's a little bit better off in this image? That's kind of what I'm talking about. But so I think it's the same font, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the same font for the headers and the body text, and I think that you could use a little bit more of an easier reading body text, like either a serif or a sans serif. Those are the types, like just something like keep your header as your main primary font that differentiates you, and then keep your body text really easy to read and differentiate it so that there's a sense of hierarchy on your page. And the colors are awesome. I'm not sure this is like a solid black, but it doesn't look like it, and I'm a big fan of not having solid black text on. It's just that's harsh as a contrast, and this looks to be like a little bit more of a dark gray, which I love. So again, with your header, just tying in that purple, I think the purple would look really awesome here, and it would keep it that consistency. I also really love, and I've just posted a blog post about this, about how to, like, your navigation is really clear. There's 7 tabs. I think usually I say about 6 or less, but this is a good navigation. You know, when you land on a page and you see like 20 navigation tabs and you do not know where to start, this is a good place to kind of keep it limited. If you did want to cut back at all, you could put like your signature offerings in your classes or something into a schedule or my offerings tab and like group them, but I know some templates kind of limit you to that. So that I think would be awesome if you just stuck to that purple and those font kind of changes, if you could get some sort of just generic body text font, because when we're reading a big chunk of text like in this about page, you having some fancy differentiating font is not going to read very well. You want it to be super, super legible, and you want to pick those fonts that are differentiating you to be your headlines and your text overlays or your kind of more artistic uses of your fonts. So I think you've done a good job at doing that in your headers and the titles, but just finding some way to differentiate the hierarchy would be good. Oh yes, and this little guy here, the favicon, I still don't even really know how to pronounce it, but I don't know if you have access to change this on your template, but changing that to be part of your brand is going to take away that Wix or Weebly or Squarespace or whatever you've built it on. It'll take that branding away from it, and it'll make it more yours. So that when people have this open, and if you're like me, I have a million tabs open every day, that shrinks, your title shrinks, and you just having that icon is going to add that other element. And if you don't have an icon that's your brand, even just putting JF or J in that purple, and you should be able to do that on Canva and save it. I think you can save it as a transparent background. You might need the upgraded Canva package, but there's ways you can save it as a transparent. Even having a white box with a purple J in it or a JF would be fine. Like some way to pull your brand back into the fab icon or fab icon there. That just adds another element of kind of personalization, and it takes that, that Wix or Weebly or other brand away from your website. So I think, do you have any questions about that or about the website?
Me personally, no. I think I agree with everything you're saying. I like this font, but I agree with you. I don't think it's the easiest thing to read when on my blog entries and things like that.
Yeah, when it's like bigger.
It is a little like scripty.
Yeah. And I think that it works for your, if you want to keep it in your headers, if you like the font or, something like that. It's just for the bulk of like the smaller text, having something generic like Open Sans is one, or some sort of just Verdana, or whatever those kind of generic ones are. You can still pick one that has like a little element of something in it if you want. But I would say with the heading that you have, because it is a little bit more scripty, a little bit more playful of a font, then probably you want a sans serif font, so one that doesn't have the little embellishments at the end of the strokes. So you don't, like a serif font might be harder to pair with that, but yeah, so look for just like maybe a sans serif generic body text font. And I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. Just again, see with the headings here, like the colors. So I think we could really kind of streamline the colors that you're using so that it's the same across, your word mark, your headers, and then the body text can be that dark gray or whatever you've chosen. And then you can leave, you can tie in your color wherever you see fit. Like these buttons could even be purple if you really wanted to drive home and you wanted that to be kind of part of your brand. You could do that as well. Okay. So yeah, I think that about covers it. This is another good image where it shows your logo a little bit better than I would say. I would say just lightening this up a little bit in the background. So that was kind of the main points that I wanted to cover on the website. And again, I liked that your call to action was clear. That's really important. Our call to action doesn't always have to be buy a class from me or anything. It could be just an opt-in to your email list. It can be if you have an online studio, a free trial for something like that. That's your call to action, just making sure that's really clear and that the eye is drawn to it and that that's kind of the flow of your website and that it's easy to find. That's important, and I think you've done a good job at that. So let's hop over to Facebook. Can everybody still see my screen okay?
Yep, it's all good. Okay,
so here's Jenny's Facebook page. So I think the content that you're sharing is really good. All of these things are nice. I love, if you even just kind of glance, you sort of can see like the purple throughout, which I loved. I loved, you've got purple pants on. Like I love that you've got the purple throughout this stuff. I think that's awesome, and that's just like a bonus for your brand. Like if you like Jenny's teal necklace, like if you can throw that in like into your pictures somehow, that's just a bonus. But one thing about the Facebook page that I think you could utilize is you should be able to create like some sort of call to action button. I know on my Hello Function or my Function Creative Facebook page, it says contact us, or you can learn more. You can add like a custom button, I believe, to your Facebook page now. So maybe looking into some sort of call to action, because right now they can just like your page, message, that sort of thing. So if you had some sort of other call to action, which you can also emphasize or put into your cover photo. So the cover photo is a good opportunity to put a little brand in, and you've got, your purple pants and stuff like that. But if you wanted to use your word mark in there, or you wanted to hop onto Canva and design some sort of nice graphic that matches your brand that also kind of it includes your opt-in, or it's a good place to put that little extra element of who you are and what your brand is about and what you do. Just like some little descriptor, because if someone just lands on the page, like, they have to kind of sort through here to figure out exactly what it is you do. Yeah, you're a yoga teacher, but you know, what can I get from you kind of thing. So just putting a little bit more onto that header, bam, when people get there, they know and they can find a quick call to action. And then you also have the ability to customize these kinds of apps if you wanted to come in here on your Facebook page. You could include, you know, your Instagram tab here, or you could customize the graphics for that. Like, there's lots of customization that can go on a page for your business or your brand, and you can put access to your Instagram, access to Pinterest. You can put your subscribe button on there. You can Google resources on how to put custom apps onto your Facebook page, and there's lots of tutorials on doing that. And then hopping onto Canva again and creating a couple graphics that match that purple, and the button for your Instagram is the purple with the Instagram look. Like, that would be awesome, because then it's your brand and it's there, and people can jump from one platform into your email list if they want to. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about the Facebook page. Should I pause? Does anybody have any input?
No, it's great.
Okay. Great. And then I want to hop on to her Instagram, Jenny's Instagram here. So first of all, I love that you've been able to get Jenny Finkel Yoga for everything. Like, your handle is really clear. You've been able to customize your handle for Facebook. That's amazing. So that makes it super consistent in and of itself. So I love that. Click follow. Yes. So I also love going through. I really liked going through here, and again, seeing that purple come up. Like, you can just see it if you're just browsing. It's just, there's some purple everywhere that ties back in. So I think that's awesome. Again, that's just like a bonus. Even some of the editing or the filters you've done have brought out that purple, which is, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it's cool. So I think that's really neat with your Instagram. And the only thing that I wanted to mention are the same, like the text overlay kind of, the text overlays on the image. So if you can pull in the purple or just a white, whatever you're going to pull in as your text, trying to keep it either one of your brand colors, a white or a black or dark gray or neutral, and trying to maybe stick to one of those few fonts that we talked about. So if you want to be a little bit more playful and have a scripty font like this, then just use it more consistently throughout the rest of it. If you want to use your font from your website, just using that. So just trying to be a little bit more consistent with those text overlays. And what I like to do for myself, and what I recommend whenever I work with people about
There's a lot of donuts. There's a lot of donuts in your.
I know.
I love donuts, and today it's Donut Thursday. It's my weekly holiday.
There you go, and that's part of your brand too. You know, we're gonna think donuts, and when they see donuts, they're gonna think of you.
I used to have that in my my little bio line or whatever on Instagram. Yeah. I think it used to say yoga, travel, donuts. that's all I do.
That's awesome too, right? Like, it's having some little quirky thing that you can put in that's just you, and showing your audience, like, this is a part of me. That's like, there's another donut. That's awesome.
I think that's
yeah, totally. Like, just putting that in, and you've been really consistent about donuts, so that's good. So yeah, like, you know, you've used good text overlay here, just maybe a consistent font, just those text overlays. And then what I was saying is, with clients and stuff that I work with, when we go into Canva or something like that, or I'm doing the work for them, we come up with like a couple of templates that we use that are built around your brand, and then we can swap those out for the images. We can swap out, like, if you're creating quotes on Instagram, you can, instead of just taking a quote that you've borrowed or stolen, whatever, from some other picture resource, you can take that quote and make your own branded template in Canva. And that's a really good way, as people are scrolling through, for people to see it and know it's coming from you. So just some food for thought on, you know, those text overlays, or promoting a class and putting your class title or something like that. Just keeping really consistent fonts and colors and things, you know, to keep it tying back to you. And I think that, like, was about it. There's a couple of pictures where the quality was like a little bit grainy, but these things happen when we're taking pictures with our phones and stuff like that. But anytime you can get nice bright light, and whether it's outside on the time of day, or if you have some other lighting that you can supplement onto your pictures, that helps with that grainy, not blurry, but you know what I mean, like, it's a grainy look to the picture, and that low light is what will do that. So if you can get any kind of light source that you can get, or if you can hop outside and take some pictures during the day, then that helps with the quality. Even from an iPhone, like you can get a pretty decent quality picture if you've got lots of light. So yeah, that about covers your social media and stuff that I want to talk about. You've been really good at keeping the handles and stuff consistent, and I think that's awesome. It's hard for people to get the same handle for everything, so that's, I mean, if people see you on Facebook, they're going to easily know it's you on Instagram. So that's really good. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Was that too much? Did I scare you?
No, that was good. That was painless. That was painless. I was more afraid before than I am now.
Good.
So
Okay, good. I'm glad.
I have a question for you, Danielle, about Instagram and those pictures that are grainier. What is your take on? I personally think it's really good to post in the moment, especially if you're having something that's really important to you. But what is your take on deleting the grainy photos, like 2 weeks later, a month later?
I think it's fine. Like if you, I mean, I still think there needs to be an element, like you said, of realness to everybody's. I mean, we see filtered things all the time. Like everything that we see is filtered, and whether it's movies or people's social lives on social media, like we see everything that's filtered. We don't see the other stuff. So I think taking pictures in the moment is really important, and you don't need to, have a photographer come and take all of your pictures for you that you can put on Instagram. And then if you find, though, that you want to post one and you get some engagement from that, and then you go back in a couple of weeks and you delete it, and even like, hush hush, but even if you post something again, like you can recycle content if it's relevant and it's still interesting or it's still meaningful to you. Like you can definitely go through and clean up your Instagram or recycle content for any social media, really, because no matter how many times we're putting something out, our audience is only seeing that a fraction of the time that we're actually putting it out. So, well, you feel like, I mean, I wouldn't say delete it and post it every single day or every, few days, but if you think you're being super repetitive, then chances are someone who's in your audience and seeing you is thinking that you're not really being repetitive, because they're only seeing so much of what you're putting out. It's really impossible or like very unlikely that you're reaching every single member of your audience, regardless of if you're on Instagram or Facebook. So if you post something, like I see people doing it all the time, where I'll go back to a picture and be like, hey, I wanted to show you, oh, it's gone. They deleted it. But they've deleted them and they've reused them or whatever. So I think that sticking to like a specific rule set is not necessarily the route to go, but just being mindful about not spamming people but deleting and reusing, or just putting up, getting some engagement and deleting, I think that's totally fine. Yeah.
So Danielle, so thank you for that brand audit, and Jenny, thank you for being such a good sport and putting yourself out here as an example for everyone else, because I think often it's the easiest way to learn, right, is to learn by watching Danielle just do her magic like that, because you can have bullet points and slides and lessons all you want, but actually seeing it in action is, I think, how most of us learn. So that's great. That's super helpful. And I think that it's true to even what you just did with Instagram, where you were scrolling through and seeing the pops of purple. Like, Jenny, I don't even know if you intentionally do that. Or is that just who you are? Like, is your brand just such a representation of who you are that it's naturally like the color you like is present in your photographs?
I'm so naturally branded. No, I actually, I watched, I would say yes and no. I mean, purple's my favorite color. That's probably obvious by now. But I also love color. I really love color. And you can see, like, I have crazy art. Like, I just love color. I love bright colors. So I actually watched the NamaStream webinar about a year ago that you did about Instagram with Vanessa, and that was actually one of the things that she said that was really helpful, was that it is nice to have a little thread that's running through your whole feed, even if it's very subtle. You kind of notice, I think, when you scroll through the most popular Instagram accounts, there is kind of a consistency. And I used to worry in the beginning, like I take a lot of selfies in my living room, and I thought, is my whole feed just selfies of me in my living room? Like, that's kind of boring. But then I realized that the most popular feeds, they really are like kind of in a consistent location with a consistent color scheme with kind of a consistent theme. So it is accidental, and it is also partly intentional.
That's the whole thing about branding. It's part accidental and it's part intentional.
It comes naturally, I think, like you kind of figure it out.
That's awesome.
That's great. And I think, Jenny, Finkel, if you're okay, I'm going to create those videos that Danielle mentioned about how to create a call to action on your Facebook page. So I'll do that with your account and
Oh my
actually
God, I would love that.
like video it, so people know how to do it. We'll put that in the Soulful MBA as part of the tech training. But I'll use
That'd
you
be
if
awesome.
that's all right.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh my, please
good.
use me.
Use me. You've already given us permission for that. That's
So
great.
Danielle, why don't you, we'd love to learn more about how folks can work with you. I know that you graciously offered to do this training for our community, but some folks might be in a position where they're ready to take the next step and really invest in their branding. So we'd love to let you share how folks can connect with you offline.
Yeah, so I launched has it been, I think it was last week now, I'm still coming down from the launch, but launched the online workshop of building your brand for yoga teachers. And I get people who ask me sometimes about, is it okay for like wellness entrepreneurs, or if someone's like a Pilates teacher approached me about it. And it is really the same process. Like I said, even in this webinar, I used yoga teacher because that's typically who I work with, but it is really about those heart-centered kind of wellness entrepreneurs who are really close to their brand, and it's a very personal kind of passion project of a brand. So I launched this workshop, and it's kind of 6 modules of video, worksheets, demos of designing, and some tutorials, and it kind of works through that whole process from the foundational work through to figuring out, your brand tones, your colors, it's choosing things, it's typography, a little bit of typography lessons, picking those fonts and how to choose the mood, going through all of that. And really at the end of that module, you get kind of a style sheet of your own of these elements and the styles that you want to be consistently seeing throughout your brand. Then we move on to applying that to your promotional materials. So we go through demos on building business cards or postcards or flyers, any kind of print design, and then we go into the digital world of social media, Facebook covers, how to brand your social media imagery, and there's lots of just different kind of screen tutorials of my process and kind of walking through how I design it. So you get a little bit of insight into that mentality. And then we go on to building a website, which is kind of like a big module of how you can take, whether you've got a website up or not, how you can take your website, either if it exists or doesn't, and build it to be really functional, working through the creating beautiful content for it, your copy, writing good copy for your website. And it's really about putting up a functional and well-designed website for the purpose of, teaching yoga or whatever that kind of heart-centered business that you have. So we work through all of that, and then we wrap up with Module 6, which is the launch of your brand and how to put this out into the world, how to keep people engaged, how to build those relationships, and how to measure your successes, how to figure out what's working and what's not working. And so it's kind of that whole process. It's about, I think, 12 hours of content in the course, and then it's got some homework things that you'll want to work through as you go through. So that launched. It's online. It's available just in an online format. We've got a community on Facebook, and there's lots of community within the workshop to support one another through the process. And then I've also got a package where you have the option to kind of up to a coaching package where I take the time to work through it with you and set up these sort of review sessions that Jenny and I kind of have just done, where you build it, I go through it, and we kind of shift things and work through the whole process more one-on-one than just independently going through the workshop. So that's online at youryogabrand.com, and I do want to offer any of your audience and the attendants and anybody kind of who finds this process to be valuable for where they're at. There's a promo for them that NamaStream kind of audience can use. For $200 off either of the packages. So I've only got 3 spots for the coaching package because I only have so much time. But yeah, so if people want to work through that process and start thinking about this in a more serious fashion and be able to work with me a little bit more, I wanted to create this so that it was accessible to yoga teachers, because I know that if someone jumps onto my price list on my design website, it's not accessible to everybody, especially when we're working so hard to build a sustainable career for ourselves. It's financially sustainable as well. So I wanted to make it an access point where people could get their hands on a little bit more professional help with this process, but without, the $5,000 invoice that would show up on their desk after we were done. So yeah, it's available, and I think Jenny just put up the slide there. There's the promo codes there, and it's youryogabrand.com. And again, if you have any questions at all, I'm online at info@hellofunction.com, so always available to answer if anyone kind of has questions about this or they're unsure about something, then just send me an email and let me know, and I'm happy to chat. And this really is good for anybody at any process. Like I said at the beginning, like working through this process, even if you've already got a website or a logo up, working through this process in a start to finish kind of way where you can start to do that groundwork and then build up and keep moving kind of forward. Like, Sandy was saying, just keep going. If you're at, 10 years in, or you're just finishing YTT or teacher training, like, it's really a process that anyone can benefit from. Just getting clear and reaching the right people and building out the system. There's no harm in that. It's a good thing to have going, especially in the world of social media and especially in the world of just overstimulation. We need to be able to stay consistent and really stand out and start to get clear on our purpose and our values.
Wonderful.
So yeah, if anyone has questions, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for this offer. That's very generous. So I do want to be conscious of time. We started a few minutes late and we're about at the hour mark, but I'm wondering if I can ask for just a few more minutes, because I just wanted to explain a little bit further. Jenny Barcelos mentioned the Soulful MBA a few times, and I just want to show people that. So in addition to branding, when you are thinking and getting this idea that you want to bring this, expand on into the online world, there's a lot of different components, including branding. And so I just wanted to run through these quick slides here. So if you are that teacher out there that you want to do this whole online thing, and you're getting the demand from it, and you can see that that's where the trend is going, but maybe you don't quite feel ready to jump into a platform like NamaStream, which will allow you to host and package and sell your content. Or if you are watching this and you are a NamaStream client, but you feel like you could use a little help with the branding and growing the business and launching and pricing and how to use social media effective, or if you're just completely overwhelmed and don't know how to take that first step, then that's why we built the Soulful MBA. So you need to learn about video equipment and videography and editing. And today I'm going to finish, we've got Jenny Finkel, this is for you too. We've just put in all the iMovie editing courses in there. So they're going to be super, super helpful. We need to talk about growing email lists, because you can't really have a business if you've got no followers, and improving social media presence, creating opt-ins. What is an opt-in? And Jenny Finkel had a great one on her homepage of her website that you saw. And then just launching, like what Danielle just experienced over the last few weeks, creating that course, creating the content, making it really beautiful, and working on the copy. And then Danielle, I mean, you could list off, as long as your arm, I'm sure, things you had to do, right, to prepare and let people know and get excitement and have a Facebook group around all that stuff. Those are the conversations we're having in Soulful MBA. So it's a place we wanted to make that's it's for people who would describe themselves as not very techy, who get really overwhelmed with all this stuff. We're taking these trainings and breaking it down, and there's video content, there's PDF worksheets, there's also some live component to it. So we're going to, I think I've got it listed here. So we're going to do some monthly live calls. So we'll put you in a hot seat, like just what Jenny went through right now. You are surrounded by people who are doing what you want to do, who have done what you want to do. We have a whole host of mentors in the in Soulful MBA as well, who are current NamaStream clients and have created content and have figured out pricing and figured out how to use their mic and not get an echo, or figured out their lighting at their home, or whatever little small issue you may be up against. They've all done it. So they're there and they're excited to be a part of it and are ready to help you with any of your questions. And of course, there's also Jenny and I. So that's the Soulful MBA in a nutshell. And so what we're doing for this webinar, we are charging $47 a month, and right now we have an early bird discount that's $37 a month. And you can just head over to soulful.mba, and there's a lot more description of what it's about, what you get, and who it's for. And then we just also started an annual plan. So if you want to get it down to $27.25 a month, the annual plan, the cost for annual is $333 for the year. So it's an evolving process, and we just kind of keep reacting to what people want, like just what happened here. If Danielle mentioned you should do this, create this custom buttons. So I'm going to go and I'll record how to do that. So we'll just always adapting to what people need or what the trends are. Like Facebook Live is a big thing now. So we may add some, once I figure that out and understand it, we may add some of that in there too. So it's just not a set amount of content. It's growing and evolving, and we are reacting to what people want. So that's it.
Yeah, and just a few words about Soulful MBA as well. So we've had a huge learning curve ourselves over the last 2 years of starting and running NamaStream, and have invested tens of thousands of dollars in trainings, in business trainings and technology trainings, as well as the School of Hard Knocks. Lots of trial and error going on over here. And so what we've done is synthesized a lot of what we've learned over the past few years. We've brought in guest experts and friends and mentors and folks who've been really successful on our platform to sort of come in and hold hands and sort of mentor our new clients, as well as folks who just want to be part of the Soulful MBA, who maybe never plan on really teaching online, but who want to have a great YouTube channel or want to learn how to vlog or whatever that involves videography in particular. So, all are welcome. It's really focused on yoga and other wellness professionals. And it's really the first online community we've found that is so focused on wellness folks, because we are different, I think, than a lot of the other contingent of people in the internet space. We have a different kind of dimension about us, different goals, sort of different levels of integrity, maybe is one way to put it. So we really teach from that place. So there's lots of stuff we won't do. There's lots of ways of sort of writing copy that we don't engage in, and we just are sort of teaching what we know and what we've learned how to do. So it's a fun community. We're just getting it off the ground. It's a good time to get in and get time with us now and get hot seats now. And everyone, the one thing, Sandy, you didn't say is everyone who does the annual plan gets a hot seat, a guaranteed hot seat in the next couple months. So it's a great resource. So
Can I chime in on this? I'm a member of Soulful MBA, and I've been working with Sandy and Jenny for 5 or 6 weeks now, and I just I feel like I've been teaching for 6 years. I think I'm like that ideal client who's been teaching for more than 5 years and wanted to blah blah blah. I felt like I had a pretty good head start. I made my first website. This one that Danielle audited for me today is actually part of my big rebrand that just happened like 2 months ago. And I felt like I had a pretty good handle on things, but since I've been working with you guys, it's been like a whole new world has opened up. I've learned so much about like everything, large and small, little tiny logistical things like putting a call to action button on my Facebook page. I had no idea you could do that. To everything, and it's really changed. It's really changed the way I approach my website, my blog, my social media accounts. It's really changed my approach and my intention in a tremendous way. So I think it's there's so much to learn. There's just so much to learn, and it's really nice to have the hand holding. So I recommend it as a client. I really can recommend it.
Thank you. It means a lot. It's been great working with you, so thank you.
All right. That's it, I think. Hey, Jenny?
Yeah, I think we've sort of used enough time. So if you really want to deep dive into branding, please check out Danielle's work. So it's youryogabrand.com, and we highly recommend Danielle, and everything she does is beautiful. And if you're interested in coming into our community, please come on in. Yeah. We'd love to get to know you. We're silly and like, like this. So, all are welcome. And have a fantastic weekend and afternoon, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next webinar.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Jenny. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.